I think the biggest impediment is that people are trying to change just by being agile, and they don't realize the impact it's going to have on their organization. In other places, though, they do know it's going to have an impact on the organization, and they think it's impossible. They're like, our organization can never get to the kind of situation that you're describing. So for me, part of it is actually motivational speaking and talking about what it can be, but at the same time making it sound like you can actually get there, and that's my fun favorite thing to do. I usually do a lot of introduction sessions with them where I talk about what it really means to be agile. They're usually pretty surprised to find out that agile people plan more often than waterfall people. So that's always a big surprise. Because waterfall, they plan at the beginning, and then they only replan when things are going wrong. Whereas agile people, let's say they have a 3-week iteration, they plan every 3 weeks. But they also still have an overlying plan that shows all the different steps along the way, just at a very, very high level. It only takes a couple of, maybe a half hour to 15 minutes to put that plan together. So there's not a lot of depth in it, but we replan every few weeks. And then we also have a lot of metrics that we use to communicate status, red, green, yellow. A lot of agile teams don't do that, and that's okay. In agile, there's no requirement. But if you have an organization where your manager wants to know, team self-organize and say, gosh, I'd rather just give them a metric report than have to, talk to them every day about it. So they call those information radiators. You walk in and they're just there giving you the information you want without you having to say anything. Like you look at the wall, if you have a physical wall or a burn down chart hanging down, all those things are radiators that help your managers know what's going on without having to interrupt. There's something called earned value that we've been using in Waterfall forever. Earned value says how much have you done versus how much did you plan. So earned value in Waterfall, it's all based on documentation. They say, well, we were supposed to get 20 tasks done by today, we got 18 tasks, so it's a little bit less than we should, or 22 tasks, a little bit more. So your earned value is 1.1 or 0.9 instead of 1.0. But really, you're just measuring tasks that lead to nothing but paper. So it gives you a false sense of precision. And what we've learned is you look like you're on time and on budget for 80% of your schedule, and then when you start integrating things, all of a sudden you're behind schedule and nothing's working, and a 1-year plan becomes a 3-year plan, just like that.
Oh, interesting.
With iterative, earned value is done by showing a demo of product that's supposed to be at production quality each iteration. You don't have to push to production, but it should be at that level where you could if you chose to. So now the earned value is true. You actually earned it because there it is in the product, not just some requirement document that you wrote. When I first got to Rational, I was told every company is different. You have to kind of understand the business before you can start to measure them. And after 2 years in the field, I said, I just don't agree. Every company wants to measure 2 things, and that's it. And when you say 2, everyone leans in like, really, just 2? What could they be? But it's obvious. It's productivity and quality. Those are the 2 big things, and pretty much everything else rolls up underneath. Although my last client, they surprised me with one that I couldn't categorize in either one of those. It was employee satisfaction. They felt that their people were more satisfied when they did Agile than when they did traditional, and they wanted to be able to measure that. And I'm like, wow, that doesn't really fall under either. Although theoretically, I guess maybe productivity would be better if your employees. Measured improvement it works whether you're doing Agile, whether back in the day when we did RUP. It doesn't matter if you buy a tool. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Measured improvement says, how are you going to prove that you got an ROI? How are you going to prove that your business is better today than it was before you did this? Now with Agile, it's a huge investment. You have a lot of work ahead of you. So you need to pick a time frame, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, whatever it is. In 6 months, we're going to be here. So a lot of my customers don't paint that picture. They don't think to say, here's where I want to be at the end. So I help them do that. And then the next question is, okay, once we get there, what evidence will we have other than subjective feelings, which those are good, but we want more. What evidence will we have that we're actually better, that we benefited from going Agile? Offshoring, let's say you decide to offshore a bunch of stuff. How do you know if you actually got the gains you were looking for? And it's surprising, the enormous number in the last 13 years that I've been doing this, I don't think I've had one company that knew how to measure that well.
Wow.
And so one of the services that we do, Measured Improvement, helps them to learn how to do that. So it's always productivity and quality. Everything we do is, are you improving productivity or are you improving quality? And then we have a small set of measures, there's 5 of them that fall underneath it. Under productivity is time, cost, and scope. Under quality is defects and end user value. Okay? There's a few others. You can put compliance underneath there, etc. One of my favorite stories was one of our clients. They had something called parameter exceptions. A parameter exception was anytime you make an estimate for a project and then you have to re-estimate, and the re-estimate is more than $1 million or more than 30% of the original budget, whichever is lower, whichever comes first. And they had a ton of these parameter exceptions. So this would fall under predictability, and predictability is part of productivity. Okay, so this is a productivity metric, and they said if you could improve us just even a little bit, it would pay back everything you've done for us. And I'm like, well, how much is a little bit? They're like, if you got 5% improvement, 5% fewer parameter exceptions, it would be a big deal to our company. We did an Agile rollout. We went back a year later to see how they were doing. They had a 95% reduction in parameter exceptions.
Oh my gosh, that's tremendous.
Said, we're not even publishing these results yet because we know there's a couple coming in that will change it. But we expected 5%. We're at 95%. This will get us maybe to 80.
Great, wow.
And that's why it's so cool to have that goal. If I told you they had a 95% reduction, you wouldn't know what to think of that. When I told you 5% would have paid you back, and they got 95%, you're like, whoa. And that's why it's so important to set up those starting metrics.